Hello and welcome. My name is Kelsey Billiot and I'm a movement artist. Today we're exploring the underground layer of the forest and how it connects every tree there. In fact, that whole forest is existing as a single organism. We're moving through that idea today. This video is part of the Acadiana Center for the Arts online series, Virtual Art Studio, where teaching artists present lessons in visual art, dance, music, and more that you can enjoy from anywhere. Let's warm up. We're going to start our warm-up with the most obvious part of the forest, the trees. If you're walking in the woods, the first thing you're going to see is all of those trees standing around, really tall, and at the very top they've got their crowns, as they're called by these scientists. So imagine first how that tree starts. It doesn't start out that big, it starts out really small. So now I want to just look at one hand and imagine that this guy is a tree. He's going to start really tight and small, a seedling if you will. And he probably has to stay that way for quite some time. Can you squeeze your hand really hard for 10, 9, 8, squeeze it as hard as you can, 7, 6, 5, squeeze, 4, 3, 2, 1, and now just release one finger at a time. And now stretch out your hand as big as you can. This one guy is a tree. And maybe he sways. And melt this tree all the way down. Try it on this side. Squeeze that hand as hard as you can. There's so much energy in this really tall seed. Squeeze 10, 9, squeeze your hand. It's okay if it hurts a little bit. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Grow one finger at a time until they're stretching out as far as you can. You can sway the branches and then melt that tree all the way down. Fabulous. Now I want you to imagine that we have 2 arms to make this tree. So wrap yourself up and give yourself a really tight squeeze hug. Imagine how much energy there must be in that tiny little seed just waiting to grow as giant as a tree in the forest. So squeeze all of that energy tight, tight, tight. 10, 9, 8, 7, big squeeze, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now grow as slow as you can. Those arms are becoming branches. They can spread out wide. You can use your fingers as leaves. And maybe they sway a little bit. And melt both of your arms back down. Now we're just thinking of the upper part of the tree, right? The branches, the leaves, things that are growing and moving. But don't forget all of the yumminess going on under the ground and how that root system has to become so complex to hold this giant tree up. We're going to make a little bit of our own root system, so pull your legs in as tight as you can. Imagine how much energy you have in this small amount of space. So we're going to squeeze up really, really tight for the count of 10, 9. It's like you're giving yourself a giant hug. 7, 8, 7, 6, 5. Big squeeze. 4, 3, 2, 1. And your roots are going to reach down towards the ground or your feet. Your arms are going to spread out big. And your legs are spreading out. Your arms are spreading out. Everything is spreading out. And melt all of that back down to your chair. Fabulous. Now, we are going to take a moment to do something a little risky. We're going to stand up on our chairs. Wait! We're going to do it so slow And so careful. I want you to imagine how a tree would move strong and slow. So go ahead, pull your feet all the way up under you. And you're going to hold yourself down tight. And we're going to squeeze for 10, 9, 8. We have so much energy. 7, 6, 5, 4. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. 3, 2, 1. And then grow as slow as you can. You're going to grow all the way to a standing position. Hold it, don't move. And melt as slow as you can. Nice job, trees. Now, before we dive deep into the forest, I want to talk about our movement concept for today. Levels. Everybody say levels. Yeah, and there are 3 levels in movement. Repeat after me. High, middle, low. One more time. High, middle, low. And when you're thinking about high, middle, and low levels in movement, this could be a shape. So if you're making a tree shape, it's probably a high shape. Everybody make a tree shape. Now, if you're making a shape in the middle, that could be like a shrub or some flowers. And then if you're making a low shape, maybe that's like a bug on the forest floor or something like that. So come on down and make that low shape. Stand tall. Fabulous. Those are high, middle, and low shapes. I'm going to give you 1 minute to practice one of each high, middle, and low shape. You have 1 minute to practice with no talking. Now. Now I'd love to see your 3 shapes at 3 different levels. I'm going to snap 3 times to see your high shape first, then your middle shape, and last, your low shape. Stand tall so I know you're ready. And high shape. Hold it, don't move. Middle shape. And the low shape. Stand tall. Nicely done. Now, let's talk about levels in the forest. It's easy to see all of those levels. The trees seem very tall, the highest levels, if you will. And then in the mix, the middle of the forest, you might have some monkeys hanging out, some snakes moving around, anything that might climb or move in that middle section of the forest. And then the lowest level is the forest floor. A lot going on down there, frogs, bugs, all kind of things that you will not find me hanging out with. But what's crazy is there's another level. Underneath the forest floor is the communication highway where all the good stuff is happening. Let's take a closer look. Up top is that emergent layer. where trees are emerging out of the top of the forest and they're at a very high level. So take a moment, think of something you might find in the emergent layer of the forest and show me what that looks like now. Nice, very tall shapes. The next level of the forest, the canopy. These are 10 to 30 foot trees. They're still spread out a little bit, but there's a lot denser things going on around here. They're protected from all of the wind and the rain that the emerging stuff kind of takes on. So this stuff is a little more dense but chill in the middle. Can you show me something in the canopy level of the forest? Nice. After that is the understory. Lots of life teeming in this level of the forest. Lots of protection from the elements, rain, wind, temperatures. So everything in the middle here is just kind of hanging out. We got shrubs, lots of things that climb, that kind of stuff. So think of something that might be in this understory level of the forest. Show me now. Nice. And last but certainly not least, our forest floor. Now you might be thinking of what's moving around on top of the forest floor, but when I think of forest floor, I'm thinking from the ground all the way down into the earth, where those roots are hanging out, where that mycelium is communicating to the trees. Mycelium? Mushrooms. That's how the trees talk to each other. So think of something you might find on the forest floor. Some bugs, some mushrooms, some mycelium threads weaving themselves through tree roots. Show me now. Nicely done. Back to that mycelium. Mycelium. That just means that is the threads or the roots from fungi or mushrooms that weaves itself into the forest floor. And trees are using that network to communicate to each other. Well, what are they saying? Help! Send carbon! Or it's really cold, give me some sun. They're actually communicating their needs to each other through this mycelium network. Now, this network looks just like roots, so go ahead and spread out your roots as much as you can and hold that shape. Now, if you're in a classroom full of people, which I hope you are, I want you to reach out just a little bit further and see if you can connect with some of the people around you. Maybe your hands, maybe a foot, maybe your knee is reaching this way and you're holding on to someone over here, but I want the room to connect with each other as much as you can. I'm gonna give you about 30 seconds. Wait! Don't pull your friends to the floor. We're being super kind and courteous as we connect with each other. So reach all the way to the people around you. Connect with everyone as much as you can. We're making a giant mycelium network. What are we communicating about? I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling excited. Really feel what everyone is communicating to you, but you don't have to say anything, just listen. Hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Nicely done. Now, as humans, can we communicate with each other through mycelium? No, we have to use our words. Our words and our thoughts is how we tell people what we need. But wouldn't it be cool if you could just connect and then know what everybody needs? Sounds pretty convenient. We're going to make one more mycelium network. Stand tall. And when I say go, we're going to build this network very slowly, so you'll slowly connect to the people around you. Ready? Go. You can move maybe a little bit forward, backwards to reach the people around you. Hold it tight, 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 tight. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Come back to standing. Nice. Now all of this is going on underneath the forest floor. Pretty cool if you ask me. So they're sending all of this information underground through this mycelium network, and they're helping each other out. Some trees are friends. They're sending extra nutrients to them. In a lot of forests, there are these mother trees. They're actually mothering the trees around them, sending them extra nutrients, making elbow room for their branches to come through, and really just helping them exist in the forest for longer than they would have otherwise. All of these trees are growing as one organism, which is pretty cool. So I like to imagine this network of communication happening, and how do you think that information would move through? Maybe it wiggles. And this tree sends it back this way. How do you think the information moves through these networks? Show me now. Go. Ooh, maybe it moves slowly. Maybe it's super fast. Zoom. Zoom. Show me a different way this information moves through the network. Nicely done. So you could send this information with movement. I want you to imagine that you have something really important to say to somebody on the other side of the room. Now you cannot just yell this information, hello! That would be incredibly distracting. So you want to send the information through movement. So maybe I want to tell somebody way over there that I would like to sit with them at lunch. So I'm going to send that information through movement. Let me think about it first. Now I want you to think of something that you have to say to somebody across the room, but don't say it out loud. Think of how you could send that information through movement. You can practice now. And freeze. Now when I say go, I want you to send that information to them with no sound. Stand tall. And go. Nicely done. What if you had to say everything with movement, sending information to other people? Things might get really interesting. Now I really want to take a moment to think about how we're getting and receiving this information. Trees, if they need help, or an extra nutrient, or some support, they're sending signals to the trees around them. What do when you need extra support? Some extra nutrients, or some extra care? How do you send signals to the people around you? Maybe you ask them directly. Maybe you're just hoping they'll notice. But I think it's best to send signals as clear as we can to the people around us so they can help us in the best way they know how. Let's wrap this up. Now we're going to put this all together. The levels of the forest, the communication going on, and what is existing at each level of the forest. We're going to start at the bottom where everything grows, the forest floor. So come on down to a low level, and I want you to think about some things that might be here on the forest floor. We have mycelium down here, lots of bugs and tiny things crawling around, definitely some worms in the soil, in the earth. So take some time and we're going to move through those things. I'm going to start as a worm. You can copy me if you like, or you can create your own movement for what you think lives on the forest floor. This is my worm, and he's moving through that mycelium network. And information is crossing through the threads, moving to different trees. And then there's those bugs, those little creepy crawlies, crossing the forest floor. And that is the lowest level of the forest. Then we have that understory. So we're getting a little bit higher here. This is where the shrubs live. Lots of shrubs. A little bit bigger animals might be walking on all fours through the understory. Nicely done. And then we come up a little bit taller to the canopy section of the forest. Maybe some monkeys are swinging through. Fruit trees are growing, but keeping their space from each other. And they're not quite the tallest trees in the forest. And then the emergent layer all the way at the top, where things are coming out of the forest, growing to be really tall and giant. Only a few trees get to emerge from the top of the forest. And these things are experiencing the elements, so maybe the wind is a little crazy, maybe there's some rain. This is the tallest layer of the forest. Emergent! Nicely done. We're going to move through all of those layers of the forest again, but I'm not going to say anything. So you can watch and copy my movement, or you can move through the layers imagining what is there in your forest. Let's start at the bottom. Forest floor. Understory. Canopy. Emergent. Stand tall. That was a really nice forest dance. Now, as we stated before, we cannot communicate our needs by simply throwing information at people with movement. That would be strange. So how do you communicate what you need? Turn and talk to the person next to you. What do you do when you need something? Maybe you tell them directly, I'm feeling really hungry, I need some food.
Maybe you blow up, get really mad, and then people are like, what do you need? And you say, I'm frustrated, I need a timeout. We have to be able to communicate our needs, just like these trees are talking to each other. We can talk to each other too and tell everyone what we need so we can give and receive support that way.
Thank you so much for creating with us today. Be sure to come back next week for a new virtual art studio.